I want to talk about my failed 2 years of YouTube experience. I've started a YouTube channel like 2 years ago, and as of today, it's a failure. But it's only a failure if you don't learn from it. And this is something that I truly believe that we're going to do a lot of things in life, and sometimes we're going to succeed at them. Many times we're not, and we're going to quote unquote fail. But to me, a failure is only when you blame. When you blame someone else, that means you're not going to look at yourself and ask, what did I do wrong? How could I have made it better? What can I learn from this? So the idea of a failure is not succeeding at something. That doesn't actually deem something a failure, in my opinion, because what if that failure, quote unquote, was the biggest lesson that you learned and now will let you succeed much more in the future? So what makes it a failure? So therefore, to reframe failure is very important. Failure is not just not getting to your goal or just not succeeding at a certain thing the way you thought you would. That's not failure, because that could be a lesson. There's a famous quote: I either win or I learn, I never lose, right? So when you start blaming, that means you're directing the attention, instead of into yourself, you're directing it outward. Instead of looking at yourself and saying, what did I do that was wrong? What did I do that has to be fixed? You're looking to blame someone else and saying, wait, no, it's your fault. So I'm okay, but it's your fault. And that actually does deem something a failure, because you no longer are going to learn. You no longer are reflecting on yourself to say, how can I be better? So therefore, like, I look at this quote unquote failure of the last 2 years not as a failure, but as a lesson. You know, a lot of times people, they want to learn to do something, they go to medical school. They're not failing at being a doctor just because they're not practicing medicine for those years they're learning. They weren't meant to practice medicine during school. They were meant to learn, and then when they graduate, that's when they start practicing medicine. So a lot of the things that we do in life, we think that we should be practicing medicine, quote unquote, so to speak, right away when we go into the endeavor, when we embark on this journey. But the truth is that there's always a lesson to learn. There's always school. There's always the learning process. There's always the learning phase. And the biggest mistake is when we don't realize that the learning phase is actually for learning. It's not necessarily for producing the results that we thought we should at that time. It's not to perform surgery, it's to learn how to, when we graduate, and perform surgery then. So, you know, it's very important to frame things correctly, because I think most of the issues we have in life is because we aren't framing things the right way. We look at things the wrong way, and then the way we look at things dictates how we react and how we absorb and take them and how we digest them. And when you see that you're choking because you can't digest something, a lot of times it's not because of the actual thing. It's because your perspective about it is wrong, and therefore it's getting stuck in your throat. You should be able to swallow it, digest it, process it the right way, and then it'll fill up your stomach and it will make you energized to go to the next step. So I look at this failure, quote unquote, not failure, but I look at it as a learning experience. I look at it as something that allows me to think deeply into why things happened, why things ended up where they were. And now I'm so much smarter to continue to the next phase of hopefully either learning more or, practicing medicine and going to the next step. So that's very important to me. I feel that with my journey in YouTube till now, there was a certain rigidity. There was a certain, if I would boil it down, there's a certain, like, process that a person thinks, okay, I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to research all the YouTube channels that are geared towards teaching others how to produce a good YouTube video. How do you write a good YouTube script? What's a good hook to catch people so they look at your video? How do you make an amazing thumbnail, right? So if anyone who is a creator knows that there are so many YouTube videos out there teaching you how to make YouTube videos, how to be successful, how to write scripts. So what ends up happening is you can fall into this whirlpool of, okay, we got to research. How do we make the best YouTube video? What are we going to do with a script? And how are we going to do it? And this and this. And then you find people that present you with templates. They show you the structure of how a YouTube video should be built. And then you think, okay, this is a tried and true practice. This is a science. And I'm going to follow in line with the template and the format that they give me, that mold. And that's actually what we did. That's what I did. I found a mold that made sense to me, that was like, wow, this makes sense. Like on paper, it works. Like it should make a viral video. And then I took my ideas, I took my content, and I stuffed it and fashioned it into this mold and created a video. And that video is actually up right now. It's the video that's called Ice Mode on this channel. And it's a highly produced, scripted video. You know, I wrote the video myself, like in terms of like, I didn't copy it, it was my own thoughts, but the structure of the video fit a mold that I was basing it on. And the video right now has 68 views. You know, it took a long time to make the video. It was a lot of effort, a lot went into that video. But I realized now that the missing factor of that video was me. My thoughts were there, my ideas were there, but in the process, I put so much into it that I took myself out of it. And the reason is because when I tried to fit this mold that other people created for me, I realized that there's no room for me in that mold. I realized that, wait, I'm getting lost in the process of creating a video. I think, and I've seen this with so many other channels, that there are so many channels out there that break all the rules. They break the rules of the biggest YouTubers that tell you, you gotta do it this way, and this has to be done, and you should never do this. Meanwhile, you see certain people with YouTube subscribers in the millions, videos that are garnering millions upon millions of views, yet they break all the rules. And I think the reason is because when someone listens to a content creator, especially in the self-help field, right? In the personal development, personal achievement, in the personal growth field, they also want to connect to a human being. They want to connect to a person, right? That's the idea of what a relationship is. It's not a cookie cutter, you know, chicken nugget that's going to come out the same way. It's not a Pringle that every single potato chip, every Pringle comes out the same. Right? You want to open up a bag and you want to see variety. You want to see that, wait, it's not just the same cookie cutter method that everyone else is seeing. So I realized that the more I follow a mold, the less I am myself. And this was really, really detrimental because I felt like, wait, I want to share myself, not just my ideas. I want to share myself, my personality, my authenticity, my truth with the audience. And like part of that truth is just being yourself on camera. It's just doing what you feel comfortable with and not having to contain yourself within a mold. So I realized that that was a big problem. And therefore, in this iteration, in this next process, I want to break all the rules. I don't want to follow any of the rules because you know what? I'm having fun. I'm interested in sharing my thoughts, sharing my deep, understanding of the way I process life, my lens, my perspective on life, on growth, on change, on whatever it is, on success. And I just want to be myself and offer what I feel is valuable content. So I think that the people who will be drawn to this version of the YouTube channel are not the ones who are looking for the glitz and glam. They're not the ones who are looking for highly edited videos with a lot of B-roll and a lot of, pizzazz. A lot of times there's a quote, the sizzle is what sells, not the steak. So this world, there's a lot of sizzle, there's a lot of glitter, there's a lot of, noise. But when you get past that, there's very little substance. The steak doesn't really taste that good, but the sizzle is what makes people's mouth water. And that's why you buy the steak, for the sizzle, So I know that the sizzle is what sells. But the truth is that I'm not doing this for any other reason, but besides the fact that I think this is something I want to do. I want to share my perspective on life. I want to share what I have to offer. And if I can help other people on the way to think better, to get a better mindset, to maybe, overcome the challenges that they're going on through life, to make their relationships deeper and more healthy, to just become better people, greater people, happier people. So then guess what? I'm going to gain on the way, because these videos are going to force me to have to think more, articulate better, think about life, and basically spill myself on the screen. I'm a writer. I write most of the hours of the day. And I fell in love with writing because I felt like writing is taking my soul and spilling it on paper. And content creation is not any different. It's taking your soul and spilling it on the screen. So I think the people who gravitate to my message are people who are actually looking for substance and not for the theatrics, not for the editing, not for the sizzle. So if you want a really good steak and you're willing to forfeit the beautiful sounds of the sizzle, so then this is probably a good channel for you. Here I plan to dive into a variety of things. I want to dive into, and the way I look at it is, I have become obsessed with living, because I'm looking around the world and I see people who are alive, but they're not actually living. And it's very, very sad that we have one life. We have one chance to do this right. And most people fumble it. Most people, it just slips between the cracks of their fingers. And they don't actually live a life worth living because they're not actually living. And we're going to get into it in future videos. I feel like the next video I want to talk about is fear, and the power fear has over someone to actually make them forfeit living their life. But again, I want to say hello to everyone. I want to just be open, be myself. I want to talk freely into the camera, and I want to, see what happens. That's really what it is. I don't care if the videos get a lot of views or they don't get a lot of views. Of course, I want to reach more people, but I want to put my truth out there, and I want to see what happens. I want to engage with people. I want to read the comments. I want to learn from other people who have something to say about what I say. I want to talk to people, and I want to meet people, and I want to hear views that are different than mine, because I don't want to live in an echo chamber. I want to be challenged. I want to question everything about the way I look at life, because maybe it's wrong. I don't have a monopoly of the truth. Just because I look at something a certain way, it doesn't mean that's the good way. I think if I'm trying to look at life a certain way, that hopefully it is a good way and it's a successful way. But if I'm never challenged, if I'm never opened to hearing the other perspective, so then I'm just going to live in an echo chamber, and then I may wake up later in 40 years and ask myself, did I just waste my life? So hopefully this could be a journey that we all grow together, all learn together, and hopefully we'll be able to get past the sizzle and enjoy the actual steak. Subscribe if you want to join this journey with me.